Hello again, this is Daniel Ritchie, developer of Howler, and today I'd like to be talking to you about match moving, which is an exciting subject in computer visual effects. Um, what is it, you ask? Well, in the old days, when somebody needed to be standing in front of, say, a miniature model or a painting, they would shoot it on blue. Well, for film, they would use blue screen, or for video, they would use green screen. This had to do with in the case of TV, the signal quality was better for green. In the case of film, the pigment or the emulsion was better with the blue. And that's really the only reason they would use those. In certain other cases, in case they had to shoot something to make work with a specific set of colors or whatever. But in our case, we're going to be shooting on green screen, and we'd like to thank Hollywood Camera Works for the footage that they provided for artists to practice their skills with green screen compositing. Um, now, in the case of match moving, instead of keeping a stationary camera like they used to use in the old days, because it was impossible to match up the background and the foreground until computers came along, that is. For a while, they would use a computer-controlled camera, but today we can just do it all in software. We can match move to a specific marker, such as a piece of tape on our green screen. We just track that point, and we can emulate the camera motion uh, and have it all done for us in software. So just to show this as an example, as you can see, the camera is not locked down; it's moving around. And this lady was shot on a green screen, and we just simply put a checkerboard in the background, and you can see that it's moving and matching her motions, or the camera's motions rather, as she walks along. And now I'm going to show you how we did this. So, as you would expect, we're starting with the green screen footage, and we're gonna. There has to be a marker on here, some recognizable point that we can track. In this case, we have this piece of blue tape. All right, so that's what we're going to track. And before we can get started, we have to clean up the garbage out of the shot. We call this garbage matting or masking. And we're going to use the Shift R on the keyboard to select the rectangle tool. Or you can click over here. Make sure it's the filled rectangle tool. And we're going to hold down the Alt key. And we're going to start on the first frame in this case. And we're going to, while holding the Alt key, we're just going to go ahead and do that. And it'll automatically go through every frame. And there's going to be some places where we messed up, so we're going to just scroll here, right before where it starts, come into frame, and we're going to add a little more matting on that area. And a little more down here we need to fix as well. Let's see. Doesn't matter that it's animated because it's all going to be green screened out or keyed out anyways. And I'll fix that area down there. And I would do the other side, but I've done this before. I'm just going to reload this animation where everything has been fixed. Now the only garbage we have is this blue dot. We can key that out later, or we can remove it the same way later. But we need it for tracking right now. So I'll just show you this. And you can see these green areas are actually kind of animated. If you ever seen the original Star Wars before the special editions and saw it projected on film, you would see these geometric shapes kind of animated and moving around these spaceships. And that was sort of the same exact thing going on then as you're seeing here. Just we'd put these garbage mats in here. But their optical printing process was not as advanced as what we have in the computers today. So the matting, it would kind of bleed a little bit. Some of the things would kind of show through, but we're going to completely eliminate this so we don't have to worry about these garbage mats at all. So the next thing we need is a background, which I've loaded and stored earlier. And we have to use this as a brush. Why a brush? Because we need it to be larger than the actual screen size. It has to be able to compensate for the areas that are being revealed as the camera moves around. So I'm going to take this image I've stored, click on that, and just use as brush. And if preview were on, we'd be able to see that brush. And if I was on the brush tool. Okay. So as you see there, now that we have that loaded as a brush, I'm going to go to the brush keyframer. Why the brush keyframer? Well, because it has a nice little tracking tool that's going to let us do what we want to do here. We can move this around, we can scale it, and we want it to be scaled just big enough to where when parts are revealed, they're not going to, we're not going to see the edges revealed of this thing. At this point, we can make it somewhat opaque, less opaque, so we can see through it. But before we start tracking, make sure you put the opacity all the way up. Okay, so we're going to click Track Brush right here, and we have a few options. There's a block size. You can see this block, this red block, and this blue block. Well, the blue block is the area we're going to track, and this red block is the distance we're going to search. We're going to search out in every direction by that amount to find this as it moves around. So, if you had just clicked track at this point, it would track from the center of this brush that we were using. We don't want that. We actually want to track a specific point, so we're going to make sure that's on and select track point and click not over here, but over here on the main window and right in the center of that blue block or that piece of tape. Let me on the brush keyframer window, you can see where that track point is. Had this been more translucent, you could see it, but we're not going to worry about that because we want it to be opaque right now. We're actually going to obliterate what you see here, and we can reload the original video later because we've stored it. Make sure you've stored a copy at this point because we're going to need that later. So let me click the track button, and you can see that is indeed tracking that point. It might freeze up for a little while. It's not crashed. It's just busy. That's just a result of the operating system that we're running on. Should take just a few moments. Really not that slow. And we're done. Alright, so I can actually scrub through this now, and you can see that brush is in fact moving around with the same motion as our camera. So without any further ado, I'm going to hit the render button. You might want to put on motion blur. That would make it look a little nicer, a little more realistic. Not going to do it for the sake of speed right now, just to get through this tutorial. So many steps you have to get through, you just have to say it sometimes in the least amount of time possible. And in just a few moments, that will be done. I'm going to go ahead and close this. And as you can see here, we now have our animation of our sky or our background. Could be any background really, moving, and it's matching the motion of our camera, which is pretty cool. I'm going to store a copy of this. We're going to need it later too. Store it to disk. That's store under the animation menu. I'm going to put it here, and I'm going to reload, not the original, but the one we did the garbage matting on. Click on use as, sorry, that's not right. I'm going to restore this. And on this one, I'm going to click on use as animated swap image. That will make it sort of our background image. I'm going to scrub back and forth just to make sure that's gotten into our background. Now, when I go to composite with swap, see, we just clicked on use as animated swap image. We go to composite with swap. That's going to composite it with the swap image and green screen. And that's really all there is to it. We just have to adjust our green screen parameters to make sure we got a good solid quality matte. Not too much noise in it. It should be basically black for the foreground and white for the background. We just want to make sure there's no weird artifacts going on. And oh, I see I did not change this blue dot, so I'm going to cancel this. And in fact, I'm going to remove that right now. Now is the time to do it. I'm going to just click on the comma key. That's to select the color picker, and click that green color. Once again, select that filled rectangle. Hold the Alt key and just click right there. And that's going to erase that for us. And I'll have to do this a few times, no doubt. We also have rotoscoping tools where you can actually keyframe. Got to be real careful not to eliminate part of the person you, and it would probably take just a little bit more work to get this perfect. And as I was saying, we do have some rotoscoping tools that will help us with this if we really needed to get in a tight angle there. Oh, I just clipped her hair a little bit there. Not going to worry about it, but for this demonstration, but you wouldn't want to do that in the actual video. As I was saying, we have some rotoscoping tools. If you go to the curve tool, you can keep that from happening. You just simply select the area you want to rotoscope. Make sure this is filled, and say you wanted to rotoscope this something right here out. There's a menu called Roto Tools right here, right under when you're on the curve tool, right at the far end of it, and select create keyframe, and that will create a keyframe on the frame that you're currently on. It'll also create one at the very beginning and at the end. Be aware of that. So say this her shoulder got in the way right here. Well, you could just move these out of the way, create a keyframe there, and it would indeed be animated, an animated matte. Getting a little close to her head there, but that's not a problem. So there you go. Then all you'd have to do at that point would say use Curvus Alpha, and perhaps I think there's a more button. You can go in and fill selection. That will fill it with that color you have selected, that green color. Make sure you have the fill tool set under fill setting to just plain color, opacity 100%. If in doubt, there's a little clear button, a little red button with an X on it that says clear fill settings. That'll take it back to your basic fill settings. Then all you have to do is select the color and the opacity. Make sure it's fully opaque. Alright, so that is one quick introduction to rotoscoping. It can be as itself used as a compositing tool, but that's getting out of the scope of this particular video. Let me clear the keyframes, also clear the selection because we just created a selection there. Also clear that curve because we're not going to use that. So, and go back to the just the brush tool or whatever. Alright, so as you recall, yeah, I think we have a clean looking like I said, I made that one mistake where the hair gets slightly clipped. That would have to be fixed. But for the sake of this video, we're not going to do it. For the sake just of getting done. Alright. And that's the video we want to use as the background. So, as you remember, we clicked Use as Animated Swap. And we went to Filter, Combine, or sorry, Composite with Swap and Green Screen. And we already set up our matte, the settings just the way we wanted them. Those are good looking. Turn off Show Matte. There's some color correction options. Those are good thing to use now. There's a sort of an artificial green removal, which is very useful. But you do have to add a little bit of green back in because the person in the picture might get a little too pink looking. Gamma correction might be useful here. Saturation. This background is very saturated. Let's see. You might want to put her saturation up a smidge. No, not that much. Turn bright red. Alright. And that's basically all you have to do at this point. I'm going to click Animate. And OK. We're good to go. As you can see, we now have, or are in the process of having, our foreground character, our person in our green screen shot, matted against a background that has been tracked to the camera motion. And that is what we call match moving, or at least in the case of within the case of this program, it's sort of a 2D match moving. Anyways, normally this might be done inside of a 3D program where the 3D scene is actually match moved instead of just being a still image. But we're not, like I said, we're not really a full-blown 3D program. We're sort of kind of in the middle of a paint program and a special effects tool with some 3D. So that's about it. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Hope it's been kind of enlightening if you're not fluent in visual effects terminology. Some of us have been doing this so long that it's just second nature to us, and yes, we really do talk this way. Words like match moving and keying and all that stuff. It's just part of our nature. All right, so once again, that's match moving in Project Dog with a Howler 9.6 as the minimum level to get all the tools that we used here. And once again, thanks to Hollywood CameraWorks for providing the green screen footage for practice. That can be downloaded from their website. They come in archives of PNG images, I believe. Image sequences, which can be loaded into Howler, converted to a dog waffle animation, and then loaded very quickly, stored and retrieved very quickly, as you've seen us do here. So, hope this has been enlightening. A good thing to do at this point would be to save your work, of course. And as a final step, you can save out as an AVI. I might go ahead and do that. Put it where our beta testers can get a look at it. And when you save an AVI, be sure to, after you've saved it, always look at it. This is critical. I'm going to save as XVID. Not all codecs will work with every format of image you're working on, so you always have to look at this. This is very important. Say the image had been not byte aligned or word aligned. For example, if it was not 640 but it was 639 wide, that might throw the codec, the AVI codec off and made it like showing grayscale or not even work at all. So, or you might have forgotten to type in the right frame rate. It's very critical that you preview your AVI after you've saved it. And also a good idea to save a raw version of or a dog waffle animation, because remember, AVI is a compressed format, it is lossy. It is not going to look as good when you saved it as it would if you saved a raw file, and it should never be used as a format where you continually work on the file. For example, if you save it and you want to reload it later and work on it again, because you'd be continually recompressing it and recompressing it, it would get worse and worse and worse. Sort of like in the old days, if you would videotape something off a TV, the tape copy you copied off the TV did not look as good as what you originally saw on the TV. And if you copied that videotape, it would look even worse. Well, same with an AVI file. It's going to look worse every time you recompress it. So, once again, thanks for watching. This is Daniel Ritchie talking about Howler 9.6, which is now available. That's about all I have to say, so ta-ta for now.